Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
We are proud to announce that YouTube has recognized Queer News Tonight, certified by analytics company VidIQ, as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached more than 10 million views. We are proud that we have more than 1,000 new subscribers in the last month, and that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida.
Over 500,000 of you have watched this show in the last 90 days. We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in the LGBTQ community. There is no other program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Thursday, February 27th. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we'll tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show. Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ community.
Our nonprofit mission? To support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community. We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2025, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 10,000 LGBTQ television stories. We will produce the 25th anniversary of Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival on June 14th. We present Pride Fete in August and Pride Fort Lauderdale in February. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ and broader community.
In 2025, more than 100 community leader anchors will host this show to support the LGBTQ community. Let's meet today's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro. He is an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is the author of 2 short story collections and 7 books of poetry. Gregg, Bears of South Florida emerged from hibernation with a pool party at Solstice on March 9th. Tell me what's happening.
The Bears of South Florida are shaking off winter with their March pool party at Solstice at Wilton Resort on Sunday, March 9th, 2025, from noon to 4 p.m. This annual gathering invites up to 200 guests for a day of sun, fun, and community. Tickets priced at $35 include lunch and a snack, but won't be available at the gate. A cash bar will offer beverages, and a 50-50 raffle adds to the excitement. Attendees are encouraged to bring towels, chairs, and sunscreen, as clothing is optional. BOSFL events support local LGBTQ+ organizations, making this gathering not just a social event, but also a nonprofit charity fundraiser. More details can be found at bosfl.org. Well, I think it sounds like a rip-roaring good time. Let's hope these bears get all their business done in the woods before they get in the pool.
It's a lot of fun. I've been to many of them. You've never been to one?
I've never been to one.
It's a lot of fun, and it's nice that they raise so much money because they are
a great group.
They are one of the larger grant writing or grant making organizations in South Florida. So
They give like thousands,
yeah,
right?
They
To
do.
different.
They do.
And everyone there, so I went to their, they had an event at Lit for dog owners. I went last week, and everyone was just super sweet, and all the bears were just so nice.
Yeah.
Their events are always a great time.
If you want their attention, just offer a piece of cake.
Exactly. Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Bears of South Florida pool party on March 9th. Let's welcome anchor Buddy Fry. He supports many of South Florida's local nonprofit organizations like Julian's Fountain of Youth and the Stonewall National Library Museum. Buddy, Ari Shapiro is coming to Broward Center on March 9th. Tell me what's happening.
Ari Shapiro, an acclaimed out NPR journalist and Pink Martini vocalist, takes the stage with his new cabaret solo show, Thank You for Listening. His performance is set for Friday, March 7th at 8 p.m. at the Amatorial Theater, and it blends humor, music, and personal stories from his best-selling memoir, The Best Strangers in the World. With music direction by Henry Kapersky, the show explores the power of listening through anecdotes ranging from reporting in war zones to childhood lessons from his fortune-telling grandmother. Featuring songs by Billy Joel, Paul Simon, Taylor Swift, and more, the evening promises to have a lot of laughter, reflection, and hope. Tickets start at $45. The audience will leave feeling inspired and may never hear All Things Considered the same way again. For more details, visit browardcenter.org. I mean, it just tells you everything. I mean, he's got a great personality, and it's going to be exciting to hear all the stories that he has. I didn't realize he was such a singer. So, I mean, it's a unique blend of choices from Taylor Swift to Paul Simon. That spans an awful lot. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, Ari is one of my favorites on NPR. And by the way, no, we are not related.
No, you had me in Pink Martini. That's one of the best bands. If you ever need some just beautiful casual music in the background, especially if in a beach setting, they're the best. So it sounds like a great time.
And Amateur is an amazing theater, so it's always great to support the Broward Center.
Great
exactly. Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Broward Center on March 7th.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Alex Morash. Alex has served as editor-in-chief of Options Magazine, media director of the National LGBTQ Task Force, and press secretary for the Florida Democratic Party. Alex, Thinking Cap Theater brings all the Natalie Portmans to South Florida from March 3rd to March 30th. Tell me what's happening.
Sure. Thinking Cap Theater brings all the Natalie Portmans to South Florida from March 3rd to 30th at the Hollywood Center for Performing Arts. Written by C.A. Johnson, this bold coming-of-age drama explores an African-American family's struggles with alcoholism, racism, and differing views on homosexuality, told through the eyes of 16-year-old Koyana, who finds solace in Natalie Portman's films. The play blends humor and heart to deliver a message of self-acceptance. The production, supported by the Our Fund Foundation and the Warden Foundation, offers audiences an immersive experience with artists, meet and greets, design presentations, and refreshments. The 7 p.m. performances have tickets from just $20. For more details, you can visit thinkingcaptheater.org. And that just sounds like a fun time. I love Natalie Portman. I always love to joke about the Star Wars prequels. It's really, if you watch it through the lens of thinking Natalie Portman is saying, I have to carry this entire movie by myself, it's a really fun watch.
Definitely. Personally, I take solace in Black Swan. That's where I find solace.
Well, it looks like an exciting event. I haven't been to the Hollywood Theater, but it looks like it's going to be a great event.
For sure. Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at all the Natalie Portmans from March 3rd to the 30th.
Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Alex Morash, and let's queer up business. Overwhelmingly, 97% of all shareholders of Apple vote to keep DEI. Apple shareholders have overwhelmingly rejected a proposal to dismantle the company's diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs. The vote in favor of rejection was 97%. The proposal came from the conservative National Center for Public Policy Research. It urged Apple to follow other corporations that are retreating from DEI under pressure from the Trump administration. Apple quickly dismissed the suggestion. Out CEO Tim Cook reaffirmed the company's commitment to diversity while acknowledging the possible adjustments due to legal challenges. Stephen Padfield from the National Center for Public Policy Research claimed Apple's DEI policies could lead to lawsuits. He said, quote, "The vibe shift is clear. DEI is out and merit is in," end quote. Apple's moves mirror Costco's, which also rejected a similar proposal last month. Despite legal threats, both companies insist diversity strengthens their businesses. Cook remains firm, saying, quote, "We will continue to create a culture of belonging," end quote. Apple's diversity report shows most employees are white or Asian men. Apple, valued at $3.7 trillion, argues inclusivity benefits both workers and the bottom line. LGBTQ activists argue that recent DEI elimination decisions by Walmart, Target, Ford, and others should put the issue to a vote from shareholders. For example, this week's Florida's Governor DeSantis and his newly appointed Attorney General filed a lawsuit against Target for having Pride merchandise in stores. Their argument is that it hurts shareholders, violating SEC disclosure rules. Scholars suggest that Apple shareholder overwhelmingly voting for the endorsement of DEI is what would have happened for those businesses. And, you know, I'm both not shocked that Apple voters went that way, but also, you know, I've been looking at all the way all these different companies are doing it, and I'm glad that, you know, some people are saying, like, maybe it should be put to a vote, because you look at who is making the decision, it doesn't be like one person. And, you know, you can tell that that's not how you should run a company. That's not how you should run a society. And so I'm glad to see, you know, Apple doing the right thing. And you know, the rest of these companies are just, they're the fair weather friends that I always remind people to be aware of. Like, don't trust these companies.
Especially during Pride Month.
I know.
But it's amazing. You know, the reference to Governor DeSantis, and that hurts me to say it. The fact that the Republicans keep saying they want to get out of the minutia and the daily decisions that the general public and businesses need to do to be involved. Suddenly now they're suing you for every little trash can, like a sad HOA, going, you know, your trash cans are out too long. It's like, Jesus Christ, you tell us you want less government, but you're shoving your government up into the business of a $3.7 trillion company, or Disney, or anybody else.
Well, that's like the most fascinating thing with the Target lawsuit, because I was reading on it, and it is an act of being like, well, we, you know, have a pension fund that has stock, so we're suing you because it could hurt us.
Yeah.
But you think about that, like, think about what a really cool left-wing aggressive governor could do with that sort of power. I'm like, maybe we should study what Ronnie is doing, so that way we can go after companies that use return to office mandates to fire disabled workers, or try to go against basic environmental rules, or try to make our society worse. The power that he's trying to grab could be used by anybody.
Right.
For good.
But Democrats have failed to, they've always taken the more ethical route than the more aggressive route. But even so, why is Florida doing this lawsuit when it was last year? You know, come on, we're talking about 2025, not 2024, 23, 22, 21.
No, because they're so backwards. But finally, some good businesses.
Yeah.
But
you had me, though. Democrats failed.
That's
true. but also, and I'm hoping that the Democratic powers that be are learning. You know, but at the same point, I want to remind everybody about Friday's tomorrow's boycott of the bigger companies like Amazon, Target, Facebook, Walmart. Shop local, shop small, pay cash, and try and stay away from these bigger businesses that have eliminated their DEI. I mean, if we're against the DEI issue, we have to make our point. And tomorrow's an important day.
Right. No buying online unless it's small, local.
Exactly.
And paying cash when you can.
For sure.
And that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Gregg Shapiro, and let's queer up drag culture. Tennessee drag ban survives because SCOTUS refuses to hear case. What's next? The U.S. Supreme Court has refused to hear a challenge to Tennessee's controversial drag ban, keeping an appeals court ruling in place. The law, passed in 2023, prohibits adult cabaret entertainment in public spaces or where minors could be present. It defines such performances as adult-oriented and harmful to minors, including acts by topless dancers, strippers, and male or female impersonators. Memphis-based Friends of Georgia's Incorporated sued, arguing the law is vague and unconstitutional, but the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals dismissed the case in July, saying the group lacked standing. Friends of George's condemned the Supreme Court's move, saying, quote, "This ruling does not define us. We do, and we refuse to be silenced. Every attempt to silence us has only made us louder, stronger, and more relentless," end quote. They pledged to continue performing, raising funds for charities, and standing strong against oppression. In a message of solidarity, they told trans individuals, performers, and activists, quote, "Your courage fuels us. Your struggle is our struggle. Every soapbox is sacred, and we will not step off it," end quote. Oh, the inferior court strikes again. The disappointment is real, and it sends a troubling ripple across the country. Please keep performing, continue standing strong against oppression, and please don't be silenced.
You know, I look at this and, you know, on the one hand, you look at this and you say the court's just being terrible as normal. But on the other hand, it's like, you know, when we start trying to make people illegal in so many different ways, it actually is very corrosive for society. Like, yes, it affects us, but it affects more than us. Because if more and more people's lives are not allowed to be legal, then you end up operating outside the law. And you start having people have social movements take on different tones. Mm-hmm. Society starts to unravel. Like, it's not in anyone's interest to do these sorts of laws. I really try to explain to like right-wing critics, like, no, you don't understand. You're causing a country to go in a very dark direction that you're not going to like what you see at the end of the day.
But it also causes, and I agree with what you both are saying, but it also forces us to mature as a community. We have to reach out to our allies. We have to be reticent to our emotions and our decisions and the way we present ourselves. We have to remind people that marriage is not about religion for us. It's about legal rights and taxation and hospitalization and health benefits, and it's the business aspect and not the religious aspect. We have to, as a community, start speaking up, but we have to say the same consistent answers.
Same messaging, consistent messaging, for sure.
And you, of all people with your marketing background, would know that. So, it's about teaching ourselves what to say and stop saying, stop with the marriage, it's how you explain the marriage situation. My marriage is not about religion. My marriage is about finances and inheritance and the right and respectability of insurance.
Right, and hospital visits, there's so much more to it than the religious
But that's what I'm saying, and this whole issue in Tennessee is forcing us to come in. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have to retreat a little, but we have to start working together as a community and start going, here's the message. Young ones, old ones, everyone in between, pay attention. Mm-hmm. We have to, and politicians especially, this is how we need to present ourselves, because everyone sees this as a cartoon right now.
Yeah, when I think about that, on the marriage equality, I remember I was a kid in Massachusetts. The message was simple: love is love, and it worked. It worked. Yeah. In fact, I used to work for former Massachusetts Governor Val Patrick, who was the first governor. Do you know why he supported marriage equality? Because I asked him once. He's like, I was asked in a town hall, and my old college roommate was like, "Well, you would support my marriage to another man." Of course I'd support that. Yes. He kind of acted, but that common love and humanity.
But that's just one of the layers. I mean, because again, the religious community is using it as man and woman.
Right.
With this, to be clear, we're talking about and banning drag queens.
Right. I get that. Right. But my point is that this whole ban is forcing us to retreat a little and figure out and work together as a community. I mean, we need our own Project 2025.
Yeah. Back to the drawing board.
You made a good point about trying to get more people to support us, because I think about it in the U.S. how we always try to go with the courts instead of the public, and I'm like, it's about 5-10 years ago, not exactly known for this very free society known as Cuba. 2/3 of their voters voted to expand queer rights, marriage, and just a whole host of family rights. I'm like, if activists in Cuba can work together to get a 2/3 vote, I think we can win in the U.S. too.
But that's why I'm saying we need to look into the African American community and the Latino community and the Venezuelan community. I mean, we need to reach out.
Yes.
Exactly. And that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Alex Morash, and let's queer up the USA View. DHS quietly removes ban on secret surveillance based on sexual orientation and gender identity. The Department of Homeland Security has quietly eliminated policies preventing intelligence investigations based solely on sexual orientation or gender identity. As first reported by Bloomberg, DHS updated its policy manual this month, removing LGBTQ identities from the list of characteristics that cannot be the sole basis for surveillance. The manual now bars investigations based only on race, ethnicity, sex, religion, nationality, or disability, excluding sexual orientation and gender identity from these protections. The change follows Donald Trump's executive orders eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in government. He also mandated federal agencies recognize only two sexes, contradicting medical consensus. Trump's pick for Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, has a history of targeting queer rights, including banning trans athletes and gender-affirming care for youth. She also faced backlash after admitting to, honestly, to killing a 14-month-old puppy she deemed untrainable. The Brennan Center for Justice warned that DHS has a long record of civil liberty violations, including surveillance of journalists and activists. Critics fear the latest policy shift could justify increased monitoring of LGBTQ individuals. For now, DHS has not publicly explained the reason behind the change, but Queer News Tonight will follow this new policy and its implications on the LGBTQ community closely. You know, my first thought of this is like, well, you know, they're trying to slash all the FBI and CIA agents. I'm like, well, who's going to do the spying on us? And also like, well, you know, if you really want to spy on me, yes, I don't like it, Johnny Trump and Elon and all your friends. But like, from all seriousness, like, our country has a very bad history of how we survey our own people, whether it's based solely on sexual orientation or not. It's a very dark history.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, based on the last Republican convention, they'd be spying on themselves. So, you know, I don't know what to say about that one.
Yeah, and the CPAC convention,
Yeah,
where
exactly.
everybody's grinder were
blowing
growing
up.
up. So Kristi Garden Gnome must be orgasmic about this. The orange tumor picked Gnome because she's more trainable than a puppy and also enjoys licking Musk's feet as much as Trump does.
Wow.
Yeah. Now that is definitely, you know, one way to look at dealing with Kristi. No. But, you know, I just where we're going with this as a country, honestly. It's just very scary to see how they're doing this all now.
Terrifying, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it just goes back to we as a community need to really start closing ranks and growing our families.
But we've been saying that since before the election. So what is it going to take for that to happen?
Well, but that's where the community, our community has been challenged because we've never really had this moment. Outside of AIDS, we never had the moment to.
I hope we can
to
rise
do
to the
this,
occasion.
You know?
To defend the LGBTQ community for a second, you know, a lot of people talk about like these gays for Trump or whatnot. LGBT voters did swing 22 points towards not voting for Trump or voting for Harris this last cycle. So like our community got the message.
Of course. Yeah.
And now we all know to like, you know, shred our emails and any other thing that can be surveyed by the government. And that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Buddy Fry, and let's queer up the USA View. Key issues as Supreme Court hears reverse discrimination, straight people versus gay. The U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments yesterday in Ames versus Ohio Department of Youth Services, a case that could reshape how discrimination claims are handled under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. At issue is whether majority group plaintiffs, like heterosexual employees alleging discrimination based on sexual orientation or white employees claiming racial discrimination, must meet a higher evidentiary standard than others. Marlene Ames, a former Ohio Department of Youth Service employee, argues she was denied a promotion and removed from her position, while less qualified queer employees were given the roles that she sought. Her case was dismissed under the Sixth Circuit's heightened standard, which requires majority group plaintiffs to demonstrate, quote, background circumstances to establish a claim. Justice Elena Kagan sharply criticized this rule, pointing out that Ames would not have faced this extra burden if she were gay. Kagan said because Ames is heterosexual, she must make a showing in addition to the usual ones for establishing a prima facie case. She asked if this meant unequal treatment. Ames's attorney, Zhao Wang, argued the rule contradicts Title VII's goal of eradicating workplace discrimination. He stressed that sorting individuals into majority and minority groups perpetuates bias, rather than eliminating it. The case has significant implications. If the Supreme Court sides with Ames, it could eliminate the background circumstances rule, making it easier for all employees to seek justice under Title VII. The ruling could have dramatic effects on discrimination cases against minority classes of people, especially people of color and LGBTQ. A ruling is expected in June. I mean, this hurts on so many levels because the whole reason for Title VII was to eradicate preference for cisgendered and white America dominating just because. And now we've finally made a few steps forward, and now it's being questioned again because of the current administration.
Right.
And this particular woman's view that, well, I don't know the specifics because it's not been discussed because it's still in process. You know, if she had any rights to sit there and claim it, I mean, she might have had a horrible track record. I have no idea. But to sit there and say that, oh, Stephen and Susan over there got my job because they're gay, that's, you know, how do you...
It's a complicated thing. I remember the Wall Street Journal actually did an article about, apparently, it's something that HR managers like to do, is if they think you're not qualified to be picked and you're a white person, they'll say the reason the other person got it was a DEI reason, which is very toxic.
Yeah.
But on the legal aspects, and, you know, I find it fascinating because, one, I do think that the standard to show discrimination is way too high. Because I see it, I have seen it way too often, and like I have seen it in the progressive nonprofit space. I've seen weird, uncomfortable decisions of trying to like find an excuse to find someone of a particular skin color. I'm like, that's not how that's not how labor laws should be applied. Or like, I remember, I won't say which particular employer, but I was hired at one place many years back, and it was a progressive nonprofit group. And one of the staffers said to me, like, you weren't supposed to get the job, but you were too perfect because of my skin color. And I was like, that's not a good, that's not,
that.
yeah, but well, under the strict scrutiny, like what, like I wasn't going to do anything.
No,
it
right,
made me feel uncomfortable to work there though. Yeah. But like what I face is nothing compared to like some, I have a friend that's a black woman trying to get a job right now. Right. She's faced all sorts of stuff with that. And like the fact that these higher standards are in place, it's a problem for everyone. Like, remember, if Elena Kagan is questioning it, she's not some dummy right-winger.
Right.
But at the same time, it's sad that, like you said or indicated, that a lot of times it's it's a DEI thing. Well, that's kind of a cop out and a crapshoot.
Right.
You know, so that we need to train people that it's not an excuse. There's a reason behind that.
Well, it's about throwing divisiveness among your workers. Let's be honest. It's a very common tactic in this country to divide black and white workers against each other.
And gay and straight.
Right.
Exactly. And, you know...
and women against women. I mean, it's horrifying.
Exactly.
Yes.
And, you know, I look at these sorts of situations and it reminds me, like, you know, we need to have we need to have better ways of hiring and promoting that is more like based on true merit that allows more equality. And I'm going to mention one quick little case study. I can't remember, it was probably like 100 years ago, but there was an orchestra that was like, oh, we can't get any women. No women are good. So they did blind castings, and they put carpeting on the floor so you couldn't tell who had high heels.
Right.
And guess what? Magically, they started hiring a whole bunch of women. So the idea that, like, you know, we need to do discriminatory things to create diversity is not a very positive idea, and it's not borne out by the evidence. When you actually create real, actual blind abilities to actually give people an opportunity, people do get options and are able to succeed.
Right. I also think that Marlene Ames has homophobic hag written all over her sloppily made up face, and maybe she was denied because of that fried hair. Find a gay hairdresser. Thank you.
And that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Buddy Fry, and let's queer up gay culture. Vacaya gay cruise rescues 11 refugees in Gulf of America while cruisers sing disco classic I Will Survive. An LGBTQ cruise turned into a life-saving mission Wednesday when Brilliance of the Seas, a Royal Caribbean ship chartered by LGBTQ vacation company Vacaya, rescued 11 refugees adrift in the Gulf of Mexico. Passengers and crews mobilized after spotting a distressed vessel. Video shows footage of a yellow rescue boat bringing the refugees aboard in small groups. Once on board, they received medical care, food, water, and warm clothing. The ship had departed New Orleans on Saturday for a Caribbean cruise when the rescue took place. Vacaya CEO Randall Roper shared how the captain noticed the stranded boat, which was taking on water. He recalled how the refugees, stranded for up to 2 days, waved a white flag in distress. MTV icon Downtown Julie Brown, remember her? Performing on the ship, captured the event in real time, describing multiple trips to retrieve the refugees. Once on board, the guests eagerly offered support, donating clothing and funds for the refugees' needs. Roper expressed, quote, "To be out in the open Gulf with no other vessels around, and then to have seen us, it must have been such a relief," end of quote. Roper mentioned that Vacaya's reach-out program would help provide further assistance. It's still unclear where the refugees were headed, but the U.S. Coast Guard has taken over the situation. For Vacaya, this powerful moment highlighted the community's core values of compassion. There are multiple social media comments about groups of Vacaya guests singing Gloria Gaynor's LGBTQ anthem, I Will Survive, on deck while the rescue was underway. Well, that singing was kind of cheeky, but hey. It's wonderful to see a situation like this because we need some good news every now and then. And it's always great to see Downtown Julie Brown. Most of our audience will not know who she is, but she's one of the first VJs on MTV. Yes, I'm that old.
From the UK, yeah.
Yes, yeah, she was one of the more popular ones in the beginning days of MTV. So it was great to see her take part in the cruise and remember her audience.
Yes. Once again, the goodness of gays comes through loud and queer.
Yes.
I was a little confused. What Gulf was it taking place in?
Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, yes, I've heard of that Gulf. I wasn't familiar with the other
yeah,
one.
And the title they had a Gulf of America, so we corrected that because we are educated.
We are.
Well, you too can survive, and that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Those are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. These anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ and ally community.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support if our community is to grow and then thrive. We must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm Alex Morash, your anchor, and on behalf of these LGBTQ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Gregg Shapiro and Buddy Fry, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ world, we hope you will join us by embracing love, generosity, bravery, be transformative and queer. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.